I have gone live. Okay. It is May 4th, 2024. I'm Dr. Mia Luth. It's Saturday, and yeah, a little bit of a dreary day today. Sun's not out where I am. It is 6:35 Eastern New York time, let's say. And I'm doing my daily shoulder heat, warming up my shoulders. I have successfully been put back on a certain pain management regimen. So that's getting worked out. There were some things that I wanted to talk about. One of them is ice hockey. And I will say this out loud. I've been watching the National Hockey League and following the National Hockey League since I was under 10. So I'm 52 now. And I know that the topic of fighting gets brought up, and I tend to just let those conversations happen without me. But I will listen to those conversations, especially when they're happening. Uh, if former players who used to play in the National Hockey League, who are now media people or analysts or press or anything like that, if they discuss it, I always listen to those when I can. And what I'm going to say is that I know that I put this somewhere on my blog, which is singingfromthecrease.org. I think it's www.singingfromthecrease.wordpress.com. So I think for that it comes first, singingfromthecrease.wordpress.com. At some point I wanted to just have the site just plain Singing from the Crease without WordPress, but it's for me, the way things are right now, it isn't going to make a difference. And since I just don't have the proper funds to do that and the right kind of time to handle that, I'm just leaving it the way it is. But it's singingfromthecrease.wordpress.com. And I know that there's been discussion uh, among ice hockey insiders for many years, looking at ways to remove the fighting that occurs, half-hearted fighting. Put it that way. Some people might want to call it fake fighting. Some people, I mean, they don't really fake fight. If they're throwing punches, they're not fake fighting. But, some of it is not spur of the moment. I can't handle my shit and I want to punch this guy in the next week kind of shit, right? So, what's it called? I don't know. There's a word. It'll pop into my head at some point, so I'll just leave that. Stage fighting is what I'm saying, right? Occasionally, it helps get the bench fired up or the fans or annoys the other team or whatever. In the National Hockey League, I cannot at all be the kind of person who says there should be zero fighting in the National Hockey League, because I disagree with that. And you're not really going to be able to stop it. Okay? It isn't like baseball, right? It isn't like the National Football League. It isn't like some of the other pro sports that are in the United States. Okay? I am a female, and I don't have all that testosterone. It is true, ladies, that you do start to lose estrogen sometimes as you get older. Chin hairs, yes, I get those. Um, but we don't gain testosterone unless we do it purposefully. I mean, we'd have to, yes, do it purposely, and I don't do that. I'm not trying to turn into a man. So, uh, those kind of things, right? For me, I wouldn't have that. But knowing the way that I am, if I were sort of visualizing myself on National Hockey League ice as a goalie, I'm a goalie, right? A goalie kind, I'm a goalie kind, right? If I were to envision it, I guarantee you, even as a female, you understand? And I am not quick to anger. That takes a lot of effort. But I guarantee you, as a female, I'd be getting penalties. And I guarantee you, at some point, somebody likely come yapping or flapping or rubbing his racing. And I guarantee you, at some point, I myself, as a female, without some of that testosterone, would still want to smash somebody with my big mitt or my stick, or chase after somebody and tell them to shut the hell up, or quit fucking tripping my captain, or just shut the fuck up and leave that motherfucker alone. Quit fucking attacking my fucking players. There'd be something. Or quit attacking me. Get the fuck away from my crease. I know I would be taking my stick and poking at people's fucking skates. Like, if the officials aren't seeing your skates in my blue fucking paint, they are now. You understand? There are likely other females who would probably feel the same way at some point. Okay? If you love ice hockey and you want to play in the national, I'm only talking about the National Hockey League, and by affiliation, the American Hockey League. As far as I know, they're all men. I understand why they pop off sometimes. I understand why sometimes it gets ugly, because there's just no freaking way that me, as a female, without all that testosterone, still being competitive, if I'm out there, I'm gonna do everything I possibly can, short of getting bad penalties if possible, to get in the way of the other team. And there probably would be times when I would likely get penalties, because there's just no way. Even I wouldn't be able to just constantly be dealing with yapping and flapping and all these other. And I am one of those kind of people. If the officials just aren't blowing the whistle and it needs to be addressed, I'm one of those kind of people. At some point, even me as a goalie might drop some gear and skate the fuck out and take the bucket off. I call it the goalie bucket. Okay, that's goalie mask. They used to be masks. Now they're full, helmets. So I just call them goalie buckets. Yep. You better believe it. Me, little 5'3.5" or so, would be getting penalties. I'd probably have to apologize to somebody the following, right? Because there is no possible way I cannot see myself out on NHL ice without wanting to poke somebody or smash somebody or whack somebody or push somebody out of a crease, or punch somebody in the ass if they're screaming like 2 feet away. Like, yes, like this. It's like, no, I'm not going to peek around your ass. I'm going to punch you in the ass. Technically legal to scream that way if their skates aren't in blue paint. But I'm a tiny little woman, and even I would end up getting into some heated conversations and smacking around and pushing and shoving. And to be honest, there are games that I've seen, if it were me, the way I am, on NHL ice, I'm not saying if I were the other goalie, I'm saying if it was me. The other goalie knows how to handle their own. And if they don't, they learn quick right there on the spot, trial by fire. Right? That's what I'm saying. There are times when I'm old enough and I know the game well enough that if I were, and if officials just weren't freaking blowing the whistle, I would be that goalie in the NHL who might chase around players. Like, I know you don't want to hit a little girl, but I'm going to hit you first, motherfucker. So I'm coming for you. And I might get my ass beat, but I'd at least make a statement. I might be a little bit of an enforcer, to be honest with you. Me. Little tiny me. Little tiny woman girl. Well, I'm all woman, right? But I cannot at all stand with those people who say zero fighting in the National Hockey League. It's just not possible. It's not even the right way to think. Okay? Since fight straps, there are people, smaller size fellas and skinnier fellas, and maybe some fellas who may not seem that threatening physically, who do actually get into some fisticuffs nowadays because they can't have the jersey pulled over their head. Once you get the jersey pulled over your head, that's it. You just get dragged around and punched a lot. You know what I'm saying? That can't happen anymore. So parity in the NHL, which happened after, right, 2000, let's just say 5, 6, right? And that got put in slowly. They didn't just slam it all in to the next season. They slowly but surely started instituting these rules. Even the fighting is more fair. And the fellas are going to have to think a little harder about fighting because, one, if they take off their lid, it's different now. The penalties, the consequences are different now for fighting than they used to be. So they're going to have to think twice. But if they really freaking mean it, there's nothing anybody can do. So they're going to throw off the gloves and the lids and whatever else and go. And it's best to just let them do it. They need to get it out of their systems. They need to make a statement. They need to write. Like, sometimes females will do this too, males, but I am saying that a lot of people, the way common talk on planet Earth is, generally speaking, the males, just because of testosterone, might likely be considered a little more aggressive and a little more violent and a little more prone to handling things. Well, we'll just punch each other in the face for a little while till we get tired and then we feel better about it. That is pretty simple. But that is kind of how simple it is for some males, for sure. I've been listening to males my whole life, and that is true. Just right, just fight about it, and then later on, it's forgotten, and they're friends again. You know what I'm saying? Some females can do that too. Just mouth off or push and shove, but I'm talking about males in the National Hockey League. It's all males in competitive, right? So what they do is what they do, and it is just wrong to think that there will be zero punching or zero pushing or zero cussing or zero saying horrible mean shit. You don't belong in the National Hockey League if those things are something you cannot tolerate. There are other leagues, and they do have slightly different rules about fighting, and some of the fellows may be less inclined to do that, but the National Hockey League will always have fights. And it is the right thing to do, just to let them have at it. It's a controlled environment. Okay? And if one team decides, oh yeah, 3 players are just going to go attack one player, I guarantee you, it doesn't matter who you are. Even me, as a female, if I were sitting on the bench or if I were on blue paint, I'd be in the mix. I'd be going too, because I'm like, that just ain't fucking right. Let's even up the fucking score here. Like, the 3 of you just attacked me. Fuck you. I'd be in somebody's face, pushing some fucking dudes like, no, we ain't gonna do 3-on-1. I'd probably even be involved in a bench clearing brawl if it really happened. I would probably tell my team, though, yes, like right after warm-ups, reminder, if we're all gonna go and start fighting, I get the shortest one. Unless it's the goalie. That's what I'm saying. I might be quick enough to be able to, like, get a couple punches in before a goalie can even, one of those tall, lanky ones. I'm surprisingly strong. Someone once compared me to an Altoids. Curiously strong, physically. Not as much anymore, medical situations, but I am saying that out loud. I know there are females who likely would also be sorely tempted to fight too when it comes to that. Female ice hockey is different, but it's not like they're all nice to it. It's not all. There's some serious people, man. Some of the females are some serious freaking competitors. And some of them might run circles around some of the males sometimes too. But there is no way I can condone anyone who is trying to get zero fighting in the National Hockey League. Pick a different league. Pick a different sport. Okay? It isn't the 1950s anymore. It isn't the 1960s anymore. It isn't the 1970s anymore. It isn't the 1980s anymore. There's some shit that happened to dudes that other dudes younger than them learned about and knew better. So all things considered, the National Hockey League is relatively a safe place to play. And if somebody does go off and do something stupid, there is a disciplinary committee. And the disciplinary committee is aware of what it's like to be on ice and what it's like to throw a punch or what it's like to be agitated to the point where you're getting a stupid penalty. You understand? Okay? I don't, but they do. And yes, I am one of those human individuals. I don't even like giving Dennis Weidman the time of day. So this will be the last I ever discuss Mr. Dennis Weidman. Career's over for good. And 10 years from now, nobody's going to know who Dennis Weidman is. Ever. You're not that important to the game, sir. You made Calgary look like a bunch. You gave Calgary a black eye. You gave the National Hockey League a black eye. And I know that there were insiders over at Calgary. I know that was not something the bench asked Mr. Weidman to do. That was all Weidman. You embarrassed the club, asshole. You embarrassed the National Hockey League. And you never, ever, 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 ever deal with shit that has to do with officials on ice like that. You let the coaches yell at the officials. You let the people behind the scenes who know better talk to the officials. You don't ever attack an official from behind. You coward. Mr. Weidman does not represent the National Hockey League. Did not represent the National Hockey League properly. So fucking forget that asshole. Nobody talk about him. Don't even let that fucking have the time of day. I know how to read ice hockey players pretty well. And that apology was so full of shit. You, Mr. Weidman, are part of the reason why it is very difficult sometimes, especially in the United States of America, to get people to even watch ice hockey. Who the fuck is Dennis Weidman? Nobody. I cannot say that fighting is not proper in the National Hockey League. It's part of the game. That's always going to be a part of the game. Some of the fighting, they're looking at ways not to do that. There are times when you want to refrain. You don't want to, be yanked into getting a bad penalty. You understand? But even me as a little female, if I were looking at myself and visualizing me on NHL ice, I guarantee you I would have a swat at somebody. I would poke somebody with my stick. I guarantee you I might drop the gloves and the lid and go after some motherfucker myself. So you cannot expect these competitive males to go full games without fighting. That's not even the right thing to do. That's the stuff they can get out on ice. They don't want to take this shit home with them. It is never okay for an official to be attacked, though. Ever. That all gets handled off ice. Sometimes the fellas, they lose their shit for a hot second. Next thing you know, their body's doing something and their brain is a little far behind. The next thing you know, oh shit, oh shit. Some of them do. They get it. They apologize. They understand. Like, I lost my shit. I attacked that guy. And they'll apologize. One way or another, they do. Sometimes they'll work some stuff out after the fact. But it's not like the other fellas don't understand. Sometimes you lose your fucking shit. And your body goes before your brain can catch up. So it is not wise for anyone to actually be pressing the issue of zero fighting in the National Hockey League. It's not going to be the National Hockey League. Even females will push and shove each other. And yes, there is no possible way that all the fighting can come out of the National Hockey League. That is the end of the story. But I don't understand. You National Hockey League, who are you listening to? The decisions you're making these days, you're pretty much guaranteeing the end of the National Hockey League. I hope you know that. You're not going to be able to sustain 32. So what the fuck are you doing? Okay. You shouldn't make another pro hockey team until you have enough AHL teams to match the NHL teams you do have. So I have no choice, National Hockey League, but to try and slowly wean myself off of you because I do not see success for two of your clubs. And the odds that you're going to be able to actually create and maintain another pro NHL team are about 10% success chance. And it decreases every day. I hope I'm wrong.